Welcome to the Gender in Focus podcast. I'm Elle, and each week I get to ask Kai Scott, the president of Trans Focus Consulting, all the questions you have ever wanted to ask about trans and non-binary people in the workplace and in the wider world.
Whenever salutations come up in a discussion or a strategy session where we're trying to figure out how the organization wants to approach those types of salutations. And, there can be some eye rolling among cisgender women who are like, I'm so over them too, because why do I need to disclose my marital status?
As a non-binary person and as somebody who's my identity is very fluid, it's really hard to feel comfortable in any salutation. It felt like wearing clothes that are just a bit too small. Like it's just uncomfortable and like it doesn't fit right and I don't feel great in it.
Today we're diving into something you see every day but might not think twice about: salutations. Mrs., Mr., Ms., and Mix, these little titles carry a lot of weight and they can shape how we're seen in workplaces, schools, and even in casual emails. We'll be rethinking these formalities. When do they serve us? When do they box us in? We'll also talk about that awkward in-between stage when systems haven't quite caught up yet and you're navigating workarounds to be recognized the way you want. Along the way, you'll hear our personal takes, so let's unpack the past, present, and the possible futures of these little titles that carry big meaning. Stick around to find out, are we team cancel or team keep about salutations? And I'm joined by our fearless colleague, Elle. Fearless on this topic. Yeah. This is
stubborn.
hot takes.
Sure. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Mr. Scott. How are you?
Ooh, we're going there. Salutations.
Do you find it weird to be referred
Mr.
to
Scott?
as that? Yeah.
No. That's like a little gender boost.
Right. This is where we're going to get in a fight. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Got it.
This is where we're going to get into a fight.
Anyway, sorry. How are you?
Oh, yeah. I'm doing well. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. What do we mean by salutations when it comes to, we're talking specifically work here, I guess, but what are the kind of common options that we see in communications?
Yeah. So sometimes when people are filling out forms or they're thinking of sending an email, and perhaps the person on the other end we don't know as well, and as a way to signal respect or some aspect of formality, we might use a salutation combined with somebody's last name. For example, you just said Mr. Scott, right? So using Mr. combined with my last name as a way to speak to me. And there is a bit of like almost a bit of professional distance that is created. It is trying to be out of deference, right? Like that I don't know you, but I will still want to show respect and whatnot. So there's a bit of those, and that comes up a lot in particular sectors where formality is really important. I'm thinking of the banking industry or financial sector. Government is another big place. There's examples in municipalities where people take notes of formal proceedings and will refer to one another by Mr., Mrs., Ms. And oftentimes there's not a gender neutral option. So it's very much has gender baked into it, either man or woman, and with no kind of options beyond that. And so that's a difficult thing. With the exception of kind of role specific terms like doctor, reverend, captain, and so forth. So, but those are some of the options of salutations that exist out there. It's not just gender that's baked into salutations, it's also marital status for women. So the difference between Ms. and Mrs. is whether somebody is married or not.
Yeah, I think salutations are a really great example of this, the crossover trans issues and sort of wider women's issues. There's similar issues that we all have. And so I guess I wanted you to go into that a bit more because you did just touch on it, but how this affects not just trans people.
Yeah, it's much more beyond that. We've gotten a lot of anecdotal feedback from women that we've talked to whenever salutations come up in a discussion or a strategy session where we're trying to figure out how the organization wants to approach those types of salutations. And, there can be some eye rolling among cisgender women who are like, ah, I'm so over them too, because
Mm-hmm.
why do I need to disclose my marital status? Or people guess the wrong marital status because usually it's based on age. The assumption is if you're young, you're not married, and if you're older, you're married,
Oh
which
my gosh.
doesn't map onto
That's
reality.
so bad. What? That's so bad. Ew.
Yeah. And it's like, ugh. And I can only imagine for, there's a lot of pressure to get married. And so to be reminded that people assume or expect that person to be married and they're
Mm-hmm.
not, either by choice or just by circumstance. And so that's just like not that fun to experience
No.
time and time again through titles, right? Or salutations.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if somebody is married and they're younger, then the presumption that they're not, that can also be awkward. Like then you have to correct them or like, what are we doing here? So,
Right.
so that's the kind of women's side of things. And then with trans and non-binary folks, oftentimes it's either assuming based on how somebody looks what their titles are, and again coming from a good place of wanting to be respectful but could ascribe the wrong uh, salutation to that
Mm-hmm.
person. So if somebody does not look how we expect for either a trans woman or a man, then they may say Mrs. or Ms. instead of Mr. for a trans man, or vice versa for a trans woman. And then there's just complete invisibility of non-binary folks and not an awareness of gender neutral options available
Mm-hmm.
for addressing them.
Mm-hmm. How can we make this better then? Like you've listed that this is an issue. I am, if
Yes.
you haven't noticed, I'm quite against them, aggressively against them. But so presumably, um, and I mean, you would know this, I guess, but I would imagine that there is some pushback to change, especially when it's sort of quite embedded in the culture of the organization or the culture of the
Mhm.
uh, roles that you're doing. I would imagine that it's so baked in. And I
Mm.
mean, I'm from a country that revels in tradition. Like, I
Mm.
cannot imagine this
Yes.
being taken away from the Brits
Oh,
anytime soon. We will cling to that, to that
clutching
formality,
pearls.
please. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
like, I would imagine that it's not as easy as just not doing it as much as I would like that.
Well,
So, yeah. Well, how can we make this better?
yeah. So there are two different options. So there is the removal option. So
Mm-hmm.
you can decide as an organization or as a team or whatever unit you want that you're not going to do it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and refer to somebody's first name. Hopefully their chosen first name, not their legal first name. So there's a little extra layer there for consideration, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly first names are more and more common, especially as there's less and less formality in our
Mm-hmm.
society. And I don't think a lot of people, perhaps maybe older generation folks, do. It is a little bit more difficult for them because they are used to more formality. But for younger generation folks, it's like, yeah, they don't even blink with use
Mm-hmm.
of first name. Dear so and so in a letter or in an email.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the other option is expanding the number of options available and making sure people provide their salutations themselves. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not ascribing something to somebody, we're always collecting that information from them and then using
Right.
those correspondingly. So expand and use and collect. And then making sure we add mx or mix into the one of the options, so
Mm-hmm.
that's the gender neutral version of Mr., Ms., or Mrs. So that's really important to add into it. And we always want to make collecting salutations voluntary. So we're not
Right.
forcing people to share that, because some, especially non-binary folks that use mix, may not feel ready or safe to share that within a particular context. And so we always want
Hmm.
to respect that decision making, because it's really tricky.
Hmm. And I guess for the same for cisgender women who don't want to go into whether or not they're married.
Right?
So yeah.
Indeed. If you go the route of, pivoting away from salutations, some people are like, well, but we're doing official proceedings and we still need to be respectful. If that's the case, rather than using, say, if you're doing a community consultation and you want to note what everybody is saying about whatever zoning or whatever exciting thing a city is doing, and
Sure.
rather than Mr., Ms., or MX, it's better to say Speaker Scott
Mhm.
is,
Right.
against this proposal, or, Speaker, your last name is also like is for it, right?
Hmm.
So these are ways that we can still have that formality, but not attribute it to a salutation.
Hmm. So when it comes to expanding those options, what does that look like in terms of sort of like at a systems level when you're at
Mm,
work? That's not, yeah, a lot of forms don't have these options. And so
right.
what can that look like for, well, one, what that looks like on a systems level, but two, what
Mm,
that looks like when you don't have a system set up
right.
to support this?
Right. Yes. So if there's like a form, a sign up sheet, or registration, and that is something you're wanting to use as part of writing a letter, correspondence, or to speak to somebody, to address somebody in a public hearing, then it is useful to collect that as part of like their first name. And sometimes residency is important, and so there's just information that people are providing, and so to add salutations to that, but not just collect it, but also for staff to know to take note of it, right? Because it's one
Mm,
thing to collect it, but if you're not going to use it, then it kind of falls flat, and then
right.
people are back to the old system of like, oh, you look femme, so you must be a Ms., right? So let's not do that.
Right.
And instead, collect it, have staff be prepared to look for each of the person and then actually use that. And it's ideal to have either a fill in the blank. If people are worried about the fill in the blank, then certainly a check all that apply is helpful too, because similar to multiple pronouns, perhaps somebody might also have multiple salutations. So we just want to be respectful of those, whatever they are. And then also, again, not to make it required. So if somebody's filling out a digital form and they can't proceed unless they provide it, that is a barrier
Hmm.
to access. So we always want to have people be able to skip that information and not have to provide it. And if that is the case, then having a backup. What is the backup if they don't provide a salutation? And so just
Hmm.
having multiple things ready so that people are consistent and on the same page from a staff perspective. And you were saying if there's like the system is still being updated, so
Hmm.
kind of interim measures, if it's not possible to add a field, say to a digital form, then it's helpful to make note of what people provide in like a comment section. Usually, most
Hmm.
systems have a comment section, so there are interim ways that those things can be addressed when provided, so that all staff can know that piece of information and utilize it for that person.
Hmm.
So it's not like, oh, we're waiting for the systems to be updated and 5 years later we'll do it. No, we can still do something now.
Right.
And just a little extra work, legwork, maybe a little bit more manual, but still just as important.
Well, I suppose we've got to the part of the podcast now where we fight.
A
If this is the first time you're tuning in, we
gloves
regularly
on.
fight. No, I'm joking. I wanted to ask you then. So you've alluded to the fact that you're maybe not as stubbornly against this as I am. Uh, and so, why is
Indeed.
that, Mr. Scott? If you don't mind
Yes, Mr.
sharing.
Scott. So for some trans, also non-binary folks, proper salutations can be gender affirming. Like it feels
Hmm.
good to be referred to as such, mainly because a lot of one's life was the other salutation. And so to
Right.
tip over into the other side, it just feels so affirm. Like there's a bit of a boost and like, oh, that feels so
Yeah.
good. Now, I don't need constant gender affirmation, especially not through salutations. Like I can let it go. There's other
Right.
ways that I affirm my gender.
But it feels
Um,
good.
it does feel good. And so it does for others as well, in that they're properly addressed, similar to pronouns. And because there's that formality, I think it's like a little bit extra special compared to pronouns. Pronouns are a little bit more
Mm,
everyday, but
yeah.
the Mr. Scott, it's like, oh yes, I am esteemed.
Chef's kiss.
Yes, exactly. The cherry on top of the beautiful cake of gender. So that's part of it. And again,
That's sweet.
for me, and perhaps others feel differently, for me, it's worth letting go of that form of affirmation because of the trouble it causes others, right? And so
Right.
that's the balance. Like I'm able to let go of something personally of interest for a collective improvement.
Oh, it's so great.
And I can hold all realities. But what about you? You're a hot take on salutations.
I just don't think that they're relevant anymore. They seem, to me, they're so superfluous, it
Mm,
becomes ridiculous.
yeah.
But I do really get that. And you're not the only person that I've heard say that it's like a really good feeling
Mm,
to get the right um, salutation. And it's sort of
yeah.
like a big moment. Like I remember being with somebody when they received a letter for the first time referring to them
Ooh,
as Mr. somebody. And
yeah.
so it was just like a really exciting moment for them. And
Uh-huh.
so I do get that. I think for me, um, as a non-binary person and as somebody who's very my identity is very fluid,
Mm,
it's really hard to
mm,
feel comfortable in any salutation, and it always felt very uncomfortable. It felt like wearing um, clothes that are just a bit too small.
mm,
Like it's
mm,
just uncomfortable and like it doesn't fit right, and I don't feel great in it. That's how it feels. And so, and
mm.
the alternative for non-binary people, or for anybody really who doesn't want to have wants to have a salutation that's more gender neutral,
Yeah.
mix is an option. But to me,
Yes.
that just doesn't feel right either. And
Right.
so there isn't, Miss is the one that people default to. And I worked in a school, I was a teacher for a little bit, and I was always Miss Orchard. And
Yeah.
I, it was cute because it was little kids saying it. So that was
Aw.
cute. But it wasn't, it still didn't feel right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there isn't really an option that feels good to me. I mean, maybe Captain, let's try that out.
Ooh, now we're talking. Yes. We're like
Captain Orchard is
respect.
great.
Captain.
But yeah, no, it just doesn't feel good to me at all. But there is no option that does feel good. So it's not like, okay, we'll
Right.
just do this alternative then.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I'm against it. But that's
Mm.
very selfish, I know.
Well,
And there are some good reasons
yeah,
to have
yeah.
it too.
Important considerations though, because I'm sure you're not alone in that, right?
Hmm.
And that even if the person kind of ascribing a salutation to somebody, they may not realize that they're putting this person in a difficult spot like you, right?
Hmm.
And if we just like as simple as foregoing it, like it seems like a low
Hmm.
cost thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sort of doom scrolling on Instagram recently and found somebody
As one
talking
does.
about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Found somebody talking about this, not talking about salutations specifically related to trans issues, but
Uh,
were essentially on the sort of getting annoyed at older
mm,
adults saying
mm,
to their toddler, "Oh, no need for Mr. somebody or no need for Miss somebody. You can just
mm,
call me L." And they were saying in this video, it really annoys them because, like, no, you're not my kid's friend,
mm,
you're their elder, you're somebody to be respected. And so
right.
they always ensure that their child refers to this person as Mr. Scott or Miss
Mhm.
Orchard. And that I can understand that they're doing that from the place of wanting to be respectful. And so I think there is this association that it's more respectful to use a salutation, especially if you're not, close with somebody. But I think that's old-fashioned. Hot take.
Yeah, no, that's good that you raised that there also is perhaps a kind of cultural aspect to it, right? And many cultures requiring deference to elders or parents or people that we don't know as much, and that it be important moment, especially say in German, there's a difference between there's like a formal you, very similar to French, and a not form, or like an informal you, and that switch between the two is actually really important for relationship building, and it signifies getting closer, right? And I think those are important flags or markers along the way that we in North America don't have because of that.
Right.
And so I appreciate why either cultures or different generations you do want or utilize those. But I think it's just taking the extra time and effort to better understand how the person on the other end is receiving it. If they're like, yeah, this is the jam, I'm cool, I'm glad this is happening, then there's no issue. But if there isn't, then, or if somebody's having a hard time, like that seems like torture. Like, why put somebody through that, right? For what you think is a good thing, but is not, right? And so it's just the more that kind of tailored, individualized approach to this, rather than everyone's getting it.
Right. Regardless.
Yeah. Well, the one funny story I want to share is about the other co-founder of Transfocus, Drew Dennis, so they're non-binary, and which is public knowledge. I'm not outing them.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Like,
President of Transfocus Consulting just outed.
Yeah,
Wow.
co-founder. And back in the day, there used to be systems used to be very rigid about salutations. Like it was like, you are giving us a salutation. And of course, back in the day, even today, sometimes don't have the mix as an option. So MX. And so they're kind of left with fewer options beyond Mr., Ms., Mrs. And so they would go for Reverend Dennis, which I think has quite a interesting, fun ring to it.
Love
So
that.
don't
Maybe I should consider that.
non-binary people in a pickle with your systems.
Reverend, that's great. And also probably makes people on their best behavior around them. So
yeah, well, the Reverend is here.
Love.
So where did we land? We I think we're closer to team cancel, if I understood.
Team cancel.
Yeah.
But I like being in conflict with you. So let's continue the fight.
Okay.
Just say we haven't come to an agreement.
Yeah. A compromise. It's up to the individual who is receiving the salutation.
We do have a resource on this, Kai. Could you tell us about that,
really?
please?
Dang, we're so on it. Yes, we do have a resource that we're going to provide in the show notes, thankfully. And it's gender inclusive forms. So it includes all things about forms, but there's a particular section just on salutations, what we also call titles. And it'll give you some kind of do's and don'ts and things to consider so that when you're updating your systems, that you can incorporate that into it, whether you're going to continue using salutations or remove them. All of these things you can kind of work through using this important resource available to you for free with examples of like screenshots.
Oh my God.
So
we're
we really
so
just
generous. Wow.
spell it out, because why have any barriers to making these very new, like seemingly small but impactful changes?
Amazing. Well, I will link that in the show notes. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Kai.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
Bye.